There's a kind of discipline that doesn't just impress people, it terrifies them. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how to reach that level where your consistency becomes so frightening that people start asking, how is that even possible? You've seen that person who never misses, who shows up every single day no matter what happens, who keeps going when everyone else has already quit by week 2, and you know what people whisper about them? That's not human. That's not normal. There's an ancient Japanese system created by Zen monks over 800 years ago that produces exactly this kind of supernatural consistency. They call it Gyoji, the practice that perpetuates itself. And once you understand how it works, you'll never break another commitment again. But I'm warning you right now, this system isn't for everyone because it requires you to kill a version of yourself that you've been protecting your entire life. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and comment the one habit you want to master in your life. Let's begin.
Let me tell you about Johnny, a 28-year-old software engineer who had everything figured out except one thing. He couldn't maintain a single habit for more than 2 weeks, no matter how hard he tried. Gym membership? Canceled after 6 weeks of going twice. Meditation app? 14 days and then complete silence. Reading goals? He'd buy the book with full enthusiasm, read exactly 5 pages, and then it would disappear into the black hole under his bed alongside all his other abandoned dreams. The pattern was always identical. Like a sick joke, his brain kept playing on him. Monday starts with explosive motivation and grand declarations. Wednesday brings the first mental negotiation, where his brain whispers, maybe tomorrow would be better. Friday is complete surrender, wrapped in perfectly logical excuses. And Sunday night is filled with promises about really doing it this time, starting Monday. Johnny tried everything the internet told him to try. Habit tracking apps with fancy streaks and notifications, reward systems where he'd buy himself something after 30 days, accountability partners who were just as inconsistent as he was. None of it worked because he was fighting an enemy he couldn't even see. He was battling the very architecture of his own brain, the neural pathways that had been carved over 28 years of starting and stopping, of promising and failing, of wanting and giving up, until the day he discovered why Zen monks in Japan can meditate at 3:30 a.m. every single morning for 800 consecutive years without missing even one day. And no, it's not about willpower or motivation or some superhuman discipline. It's something much deeper, much more fundamental, and much more terrifying than you can imagine. In ancient Zen temples across Japan, there's a rule that sounds simple, but changes everything at the neurological level, Gyoji, which literally translates to continuous practice without any gap whatsoever. And when they say without gap, they mean exactly that. Since the year 1200 AD, every single day at exactly 3:30 in the morning, a bell rings at Eiheiji Temple in Japan. And since the year 1200 AD, every single day without exception, the monks wake up, not at 3:25, not at 3:35, not when they feel like it, exactly at 3:30 a.m. Do you want to know what never ever happens in that temple? No monk lies there in bed having an internal debate about whether today is a good day to skip. The question literally doesn't exist in their consciousness because they understand something that you don't understand yet. Your brain categorizes every single commitment you make into 2 distinct boxes: reversible commitments and irreversible commitments. And this distinction is everything. Reversible commitments become endless mental negotiations where your brain can debate and discuss and find exceptions and make deals. But irreversible commitments simply happen without any internal discussion whatsoever. When a Zen monk takes his vows in front of the entire monastic community, he's not making a promise that he might break later. He's fundamentally changing his identity at the core level. He's not promising to try to meditate every day. He's publicly declaring, I am a meditator. This is who I am now. This is my identity. The entire community witnesses this transformation. The identity shifts permanently, and the mental negotiation ends forever, because you can't negotiate with your identity. Dr. Wendy Wood, a neuroscientist at Harvard University who has spent 17 years studying the neuroscience of habit formation, discovered something revolutionary in her research. When you make a behavior completely public and tie it to your social identity. Your primitive brain interprets failure not as a minor setback, but as a genuine survival threat. Why? Because our ancestors who lost social status in their tribe faced exile and death. Your brain still operates on this ancient programming where social reputation equals survival.
This is exactly what Johnny did that changed everything. He stopped making private promises to himself in his journal that nobody would ever see, and he started making completely public, irreversible declarations. He wrote on a piece of paper in clear handwriting, "I am a person who meditates for 20 minutes every single day at 5 a.m. for 90 consecutive days, starting tomorrow." He signed it with his full name, he took a photo of it, and he posted it on every social media platform he had. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, even sent it in the family WhatsApp group. His girlfriend looked at him like he'd lost his mind and said, "Don't you think you're being a little too dramatic about this?" His coworkers laughed and said, "Bro, you're trying way too hard, just chill." And that reaction was absolutely perfect, because every single person who doubted him became fuel for the fire. Every morning when his alarm went off and his brain started whispering, "You're too tired, one day won't matter, nobody will notice," he would think about having to post online that he failed after 3 days. He would imagine having to look his girlfriend in the face and admit that he was just another guy who talks big but can't deliver. He would picture his coworkers smirking and saying, "Told you so." Day 3 brought the first real test, when his alarm screamed at 5 a.m. and his entire body felt like it was made of concrete. Immediately, his mind began its usual manipulation routine with perfectly reasonable arguments. "You're exhausted, this isn't healthy, your body needs rest. One missed day won't make any difference in the long run." But something fundamental had shifted in his brain. The thought of posting online that he'd quit after 72 hours was more painful than getting out of bed. Having to admit defeat to everyone who was watching was more unbearable than 20 minutes of discomfort. The public declaration had successfully made giving up more painful than continuing, which is the entire point. But here's where Johnny discovered the real problem. Even with all this massive social pressure, he was still fighting a mental war every single morning because his body didn't care about his reputation or what people thought. His body just wanted to sleep when it was tired.
That's when Johnny discovered the monk's second principle that most people completely miss: non-negotiable fixed hours that never change under any circumstances. Think about how much mental energy you waste every single day on the same stupid question. When should I do this today? Should I do it now or after breakfast? Should I do it in the morning or wait until evening? Should I start immediately or give myself 30 more minutes? This seemingly small decision burns massive amounts of glucose in your prefrontal cortex, glucose that should be used for actually executing the practice instead of debating when to do it. You're wasting all your fuel deciding when to drive instead of actually driving the car. And this decision fatigue is killing your consistency before you even begin. Johnny chose 5 a.m., not because he was some natural morning person who loved watching sunrises and drinking coffee in silence. He chose 5 a.m. for one strategic reason: the world was completely asleep. No text messages, no emails, no emergency work calls, no distractions, no valid excuses, no negotiations possible. The specific time wasn't about optimization or finding his peak performance window. It was about total elimination, eliminating every single possible reason his brain could manufacture to do it later. The first week was absolute hell, where his body fought against this new pattern every single morning. And that's completely normal, because your body is a biological machine that operates on established patterns. And when you force it to build a completely new pattern from scratch, it resists with everything it has. But in the second week, something started changing. Johnny began waking up 2 or 3 minutes before his alarm went off. His body had started preparing itself for what it now expected to happen. On day 14, his alarm rang and his feet touched the floor before his conscious mind even engaged. There was no thought process, no decision-making, just automatic movement like a machine executing its program. Here's what most people completely misunderstand about fixed hours. It's not about about finding the perfect schedule that fits your lifestyle. It's about removing time as a variable in the equation. When you do something at different times every day, you're forcing your brain to make a brand new decision every single time. But when the schedule is completely fixed and unchangeable, your brain can't argue with a constant. It's like arguing with gravity. But Johnny discovered a new problem that was sabotaging his progress. His schedule was now fixed at 5 a.m., but he kept changing what he did during those 20 minutes. Some mornings, meditation felt right. Other days, he wanted to read instead. Sometimes he'd do a few push-ups. His brain had found a brand new negotiating point that he didn't even realize existed. Instead of arguing about when, his mind started arguing about what. And the 20 minutes at 5 a.m. became reliable, but the actual practice itself was complete chaos. The fixed schedule had solved half of the equation, but his mind was still finding clever loopholes to negotiate through. He'd eliminated the when, but not the what. And this is where the Zen teaching on forms becomes controversial, because it requires you to do exactly the same thing in exactly the same order every single day until your mind completely surrenders. You think variety keeps things interesting and prevents boredom, but variety is actually where consistency dies its slow death. Because every time you change what you're doing, your brain has to make hundreds of micro decisions. Should I do push-ups or burpees today? Which book should I read? How long should this meditation session be? Every single small decision creates a tiny crack where your old patterns leak back in and contaminate the new system. Johnny completely locked down everything with zero room for variation. 20 push-ups in the same spot, 10 minutes of meditation using the same app, 10 minutes of reading the same book, same exact order every day, same timer, same routine. His personal Ango period of 90 days of absolutely identical practice. His friends started calling him robotic and said he was becoming weird. His girlfriend complained that he was getting annoying with his rigid schedule. They didn't understand that annoying was exactly the point, that robotic was the goal. Week 3, his mind went to absolute war against this monotony. Every single morning it screamed for variety with compelling arguments. This is stupid. You're not a robot. You need to mix things up or you'll burn yourself out completely. But week 4, something broke. Not his discipline, but his resistance. The voice of negotiation started growing quieter and quieter. By week 6, he was halfway through his push-ups before his conscious mind even realized he had started. The practice was literally taking care of itself without any willpower required.
This is what people fundamentally don't understand about real consistency. It's not about willpower lasting forever or having unlimited motivation. It's about repetition until willpower is no longer needed at all. Your body learns the sequence exactly like a professional dancer learns choreography. It becomes automatic muscle memory that doesn't require conscious thought. Dr. Philippa Lally at MIT, who has studied the automatization of behaviors for 14 years, explains, when you repeat the exact same action in the exact same context for approximately 66 days, the basal ganglia of your brain completely take over the process. The behavior becomes fully automatic. You are no longer deciding to do it, you are simply doing it. Day 35, Johnny caught a terrible flu with a 102-degree fever. Day 40, he was traveling for work across 3 time zones, and this is exactly where the old pattern always kicked in before. Sick day equals rest day. Travel equals exception. Imperfect conditions equal valid excuse. This is where he gave up every single time before, where absolutely everyone gives up because we believe that perfect practice requires perfect conditions, and perfect conditions do not exist in real life. But the Zen monk Dogen understood something about gaps that changes everything. He wrote that practice must continue without even a moment of gap, because in that gap, no matter how small, all your old patterns return and reclaim their territory. The all-or-nothing lie has killed more consistency than laziness ever could. You tell yourself, if I can't do the full 20 minutes properly, why do anything at all? If I can't do perfect push-ups, I'll just wait until tomorrow when I feel better. This binary thinking creates gaps, and gaps are where your old self crawls back in and destroys everything you've built.
Look at any elite athlete and you'll see something people completely misinterpret. They have rest days, but those rest days are still movement toward the goal. They're intentional, strategic, planned recovery that makes them stronger, never because they feel lazy, never because they don't want to train. Travel day arrived on day 40 with a 4 a.m. airport departure, meetings all day, hotel with no gym, and Johnny did push-ups in the airport bathroom while travelers stared at him like he'd completely lost his mind. And that was perfect. He meditated in the Uber during the ride, he read on the plane. Nothing was perfect, but everything maintained momentum toward the same goal he declared 90 days ago. This is Gyoji, practice continuing itself regardless of conditions.
But here's what nobody prepares you for: the unexpected obstacles you never saw coming, the things you can't plan for because you don't know they exist yet. Your child gets sick in the middle of the night. Your car breaks down on the way to the gym. Your boss keeps you 2 hours late. These are consistency killers because you haven't pre-decided how to handle them. Every time an unexpected obstacle appears, you have to make a decision under extreme stress, and that decision, in that moment of chaos, is where you'll choose the path of least resistance every single time, because that's how human brains work under pressure. The obstacle wins because you're fighting a battle you didn't prepare for. But Zen monasteries have operated for 8 centuries without missing a single day of practice. Earthquakes, wars, famines, floods. The practice continues no matter what happens. How is this possible? They don't make decisions when obstacles arise because the answer already exists in the system. When the meditation hall floods, they automatically go to the dining hall. When the dining hall catches fire, they sit in the courtyard. There is no emergency meeting, no discussion, no negotiation. The bell rings and the response is automatic. Johnny wrote down every single obstacle that had ever broken his consistency in the past and pre-solved each one with a specific if-then plan. Raining outside means push-ups in the garage. Guests staying at home means silent workout in the bathroom. Hungover, which shouldn't happen, but if it does, means 2 push-ups, 1 minute of meditation, 1 page of reading. Each possible scenario had its predetermined response written down. When X happens, I automatically do Y. No thinking required, no negotiating allowed, just immediate execution. The power of this system isn't just about maintaining the sequence when things go wrong. It's that you stop wasting precious mental energy on decisions. Your brain knows with complete certainty that no matter what happens tomorrow, the practice will continue in some form. This certainty changes your entire nervous system at the biological level. Dr. Roy Baumeister at Yale University, who has studied decision-making for 22 years, found that when you pre-decide your actions, you completely remove decision fatigue from the critical moment. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for willpower, remains intact to execute rather than decide.
Day 70. Johnny's practice had become so completely automatic that he would sometimes wake up not even remembering doing the push-ups. His body simply moved through the sequence like a programmed machine executing code. His girlfriend's mother visited for an entire week, and he did push-ups in the bathroom at 5 a.m. while everyone slept. The practice continued because the answers were already written, the decisions were already made. Day 90 arrived. Johnny completed his personal Ango, 90 consecutive days of uninterrupted practice without a single gap. But something much deeper had happened beyond just completing a challenge. He was no longer the same person who started this journey 90 days ago. His friends literally told him, "Your consistency is scary. It's not normal." And his response was perfect. Good. Because when your discipline makes others uncomfortable, when your consistency frightens people, you're finally operating at the right level where transformation actually happens. Your very existence proves that everything they say is impossible is actually just uncomfortable. And that's exactly why they'll call you obsessive. That's why they'll tell you you need more balance in your life. They need you to slow down so they can feel better about standing still. But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it because you've discovered the secret that most people never find. Consistency isn't about doing something every day through sheer willpower. It's about becoming someone who literally can't do it any other way. When you implement the complete Gyoji system, public irreversible declaration, fixed non-negotiable schedule, identical practice without variation, and pre-solved obstacles, you're not just creating habits, you're fundamentally reshaping your identity at the neurological level. You stop being someone who tries hard and become someone who simply is. And when that transformation is complete, when that shift happens at the identity level, people will look at you and ask, how does he do that every single day? And the answer will be simple. He doesn't do it, he is it.
The question that remains is this: are you ready for this level of complete transformation? Because this isn't about discipline or motivation or building better habits. This is about death and rebirth. The death of your inconsistent self and the birth of your unbreakable self. The Gyoji system won't make you a better version of yourself. It will make you a completely different person, someone that others will look at and think, that's not normal. And when you hear those exact words, you'll know you finally arrived where you wanted to be. If this video changed your perspective on discipline and consistency, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the content that will transform you completely. And tell me in the comments, what will your public declaration be? What habit will you implement using the Gyoji system starting tomorrow? Remember, the consistency that scares others is the only consistency worth having. If you've watched this far, thank you for your attention. I'll see you in the next video.